Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining me as we continue our discussions about mental health as our way of getting real about mental health with our free webinars every Thursday for the month of May. Today we are talking about a topic that I'm sure a lot of us are experiencing during the COVID-19 pandemic, dealing with worry and uncertainty. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nicolette Gowan. I'm an occupational therapist at GoWin Consulting. GoWin Consulting is an organization of occupational therapists across Canada that provides support to employees and employers by collaborating on sustainable solutions for staying at work or returning to work after a health or disability leave. As an occupational therapist, I work with employees with a variety of cognitive, emotional, and physical limitations that show up as impacting their ability to complete their job or to engage with work tasks. And so I use principles of cognitive behavioral therapy, mindfulness, self-compassion when I coach individuals to best manage mental, physical, emotional, and cognitive health. Our agenda for the next 30 minutes is to take a look at the normal human reaction that occurs when we experience and adjust to changes. I'll discuss worry and its impact on our health and well-being, explore the interconnection between our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. And finally, I will leave you with some strategies to help you regain control of your reactions to change, worry, and uncertainty. As humans, we have this incredible and unique ability to think about future events. This can be great as it can help us to anticipate potential future challenges, plan for solutions to those challenges, and ultimately help us to achieve our goals. On the flip side, humans are also creatures of habit. Any change to our typical daily routine can mean uncertainty. Change is often out of our control, and it leaves us feeling unsettled because it is difficult to anticipate, plan, and again, set and reach our goals. Being faced with change can lead to worry. Right now, the world is changing so rapidly around us, and we do not have a lot of control over what is happening globally. This health challenge has disrupted our home, work, personal, and social lives. There is a lot of uncertainty surrounding the virus, the vaccines, our restrictions, and our activities, and what will happen in the future. Consequently, we are currently faced with a lot of worry. Worry is essentially a way of thinking ahead, but it's often unproductive. It often leaves us feeling anxious or apprehensive. Simply put, worry is a chain of thoughts and images that can start as a simple thought and progress to a catastrophe or a worst case scenario. And it's natural for us to be thinking about worst case scenarios in these uncertain times of ever-changing events. Here is an example of how worrisome thoughts can snowball to catastrophe. Perhaps you start thinking about how your head feels, possibly thinking, I have a headache. And this turns into, what if I have coronavirus? Which becomes, maybe I have passed it on to everyone in my house or my office, which then jumps to, everyone will pass it on and die, which can quickly turn into a catastrophe as maybe you imagine an apocalypse and losing everyone you know and love. And you can see here how quickly one thought or image turns into a chain and eventually lands you at a worst possible scenario. What does worry look like for you? Well, the definition of worry is universal. The feeling of worry is different for each person. Take a moment to reflect on what worry means, feels, and looks like to you. What kinds of thoughts do you have when you worry? Do you notice any patterns that might be particularly unhelpful? This could look like creating what if scenarios, catastrophizing to worst case scenarios. It could be all or nothing or black and white thoughts. Maybe you disqualify the positive things that happen. Does your worry start from other emotions? Or maybe does it cause new ones, such as anxiety, panic, anger, irritability, or frustration? How do you feel in your body when you're worried? Maybe your muscles feel tense, or you start to get headaches. You notice a change in your breathing rate or your heart rate. And what do you do, or what are your behaviors when you're worried? Maybe you stress eat or potentially isolate from people that you know and love. Maybe you go on a shopping spree to cope with that. Maybe it's using substances or lashing out at others. I encourage you to reflect on these reactions to worry so that you can begin to identify how worry is impacting or is impacted by both your internal environment and your behaviors. Generally, excessive worry leads to anxiety. Our unhelpful and anxious thoughts often revolve around, again, those worst case scenarios. A feeling of an inability to cope, or a feeling that we are in danger. Our brain doesn't know the difference between what is real and what is imagined. So when our brain goes into a worry loop or a worry chain, our body reacts as if there is a real threat in the moment. Our body goes in to this fight or flight or freeze mode, causing symptoms such as increased heart rate, increased breathing rate, blood pressure, shallow breathing, increase in muscle tension, aches, pains. Could be a difficulty concentrating or making decisions. Essentially, as our body and mind prepares to either stay and fight, turn and run, or freeze in the perceived danger. We know that this global pandemic we are facing is, in fact, a real threat. But we also know that we cannot fight it or run from it. So this worry and anxiety that is related to the pandemic is not really helpful or productive. But not all worry and anxiety is bad. Anxiety can be helpful when it alerts us to a real threat, such as a vehicle running a stop sign. Anxiety prepares us to face that threat, like when we need to act quickly to avoid the oncoming vehicle. Anxiety can help keep us safe and alive by allowing us to act quickly without thinking so that we can avoid being hit. Worry and stress can also be productive. It can help us to meet deadlines, to accomplish our goals, and again, to plan ahead. However, worry and anxiety may become unhelpful in a number of ways. When our body reacts to a threat that is not actually there, let's think of maybe a performance review or an angry email from your boss. It's not an actual life-threatening, in-the-moment threat, although it might be perceived that way by our body and our nervous system. So for things like this, we use our body resources unnecessarily when our stress response is activated, which can be exhausting and can also lead to other physical problems. When our body reacts to a perceived threat, none of those bodily reactions are actually helping us to stay safe. Unproductive worry revolves around a problem that can't be solved, fought, or run from. So the bottom line is that everyone worries, but worry becomes problematic when it gets in the way of us living our lives, when it leaves us feeling demoralized, upset, or exhausted. Worry and anxiety triggers. Anything can be a trigger for worry or anxiety, depending on a person's life experiences, upbringing, past traumas, and ways of seeing the world. Our individual perceptions of situations are a contributor to experiencing an anxiety trigger. However, in the average population, worry becomes more common in situations that are one, ambiguous, so open to different interpretations. Two, new or unknown, as we don't have any past experiences to fall back on. And three, unpredictable. We have no way of knowing how things will turn out. This current state of COVID-19 fits in all three of these categories. It's natural to feel worried, stressed, or anxious about it. Let's take a moment to look at some of the problems and worries that we might be experiencing at this time. Real world problems can cause us to have worry that can be helpful, can help us solve our problems. Real world worries about actual problems that are affecting you right now could look like, my children are off school and I need help looking after them. Or, I don't have enough food in the house to last more than a few days, and I will have to go out in public to buy more. Hypothetical worries are unhelpful. They are about things that do not currently exist, but which might happen in the future, such as, what will I do if I lose my job and end up in destitute? Or, I'm young and healthy, but what if I end up on a ventilator? After this presentation, take some time to reflect on your own worries and see if you can categorize them as a real problem worry or a hypothetical worry. And you can use this worry decision tree to help you decide if it's a real problem worry or a hypothetical worry, and it can guide you to decide what to do in that moment. So ask yourself, is this problem or worry something that I can do something about? If your answer is no, can you actively let go of the worry and focus on something in your life that is important to you right now? On the flip side, if your answer is yes, can you work out what your options are? List out what you could do and maybe create a plan. And then ask yourself, is there anything that I can do right now? If the answer is no, again, try and let go of that worry and see if there's something else that you can focus on in that moment. If the answer is yes, do it now. The quicker that we deal with problems as they arise, the less we perpetuate the negative thinking about those worries. So what can you do about worry? Again, reflect on your own life. What strategies do you use that help you with worry? It might look like reducing how much you use your smartphone, limiting your intake of media of any kind that often perpetuates these worries about the pandemic. Do you set boundaries with your friends and families about what topics you want to discuss or when you can and cannot spend time, either virtually or in person? Do you use exercise or mindfulness? How do you limit unhelpful worrying? Are you using self-talk or looking at the worry and thinking, is this a fact or is this an opinion? And how do you reduce worrying about hypothetical problems? We'll talk a little bit about reframing thoughts or worries. And again, focusing on what you can control versus what you can't control. One way to look at managing our worry is to understand that the way we think, the emotions we are feeling, and our actions or behaviors are all interconnected. And by changing one, we can impact the others. So this is the model for the commonly known therapeutic approach called cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. Ultimately, CBT suggests that thoughts can influence emotions and behaviors, and vice versa. We usually have a thought, perception, or impression about a situation. The situation may not be in our control, and in this case, the global pandemic. However, our thoughts, emotions, and behavior can all be changed. By changing one of these components, we have the ability to affect the others. Let's look at an example, or a few examples. So for example, if my thought is, people aren't taking this seriously, I may become afraid, angry, frustrated, and/or anxious. I may then lash out at people online or engage in another behavior that does not actually help me in this scenario. If I can change my thought to, well, I can't control others, but I can do my best to protect myself, I may still be fearful and anxious, but maybe on a lesser scale than with the original thought. And I may also eliminate other emotions such as anger and frustration. This will then help me to respond more rationally rather than emotionally reacting by focusing on my own behaviors rather than those of others. Alternatively, if I have difficulty changing my thoughts, I may think about changing my behaviors to help with my feelings and thoughts. So I can decide to take proper action to protect myself rather than lashing out on to others online. This may then allow me to feel more in control of the situation. And maybe now I feel more confident and less fear or anxiety. And in turn, this may then allow me to think differently about the situation so that I can change my thoughts. You'll see that the situation has not changed in either of these scenarios. We still have the global pandemic to worry about. What has changed is the way that I choose to respond to the situation by changing either my thoughts or my behaviors. It is very difficult to change our emotions without changing anything else. So usually we focus on changing the thoughts and actions rather than changing emotions. Again, think about how do you or how can you regain control over worry? Think about what strategies are helpful for regaining control of your worries. And we're going to talk about some ideas of strategies that you might be able to try. But remember, we need concrete alternatives to worry. Just saying don't panic or don't worry isn't enough to stop the worry. We need real strategies to help us from getting caught in the cycle of worry. Some strategies that are related to cognitive behavioral therapy could include some cognitive strategies. Can you shift the locus of control? So instead of thinking about the things that are happening in the world, which we have no control over, we can focus on ourselves and our lives and what we can control. So think about what in your life can you control right now? How can you focus on those things? Changing our thoughts. Using strategies to reframe and replace unhelpful thinking, such as that worry decision tree. Asking yourself questions to help you reframe the thought, such as, am I seeing the whole picture? Am I engaging in a hypothetical or a real world worry? Are there other perspectives or options? Am I looking at this in black and white? Or my personal favorite, if I were my best friend with these worries and thoughts, what would I say to them to make them feel better? How can I say these things to myself? Maybe you change your behaviors. So think about what physical things that you can do to shift your focus from worry to something else. Maybe it's getting outside for a walk or exercising, talking to someone, journaling, or engaging in a hobby that we enjoy. Can help to shift our focus from the worry. Trying your best to look for the positive. I mean, what could possibly be good about this? Well, maybe I think I still have a job. I'm saving money on gas, commuting, and extracurriculars. I'm saving time on commuting. I am healthy still. You know what? I actually have more time now to spend with my family. I'm able to get some projects done at home that, I've been putting them off for a while. And I can still be connected with my friends and loved ones through technology. So I can look at those positives. You can try using self-talk. So talk back to the worrisome thoughts with compassion. Things like, it's natural for me to worry in these uncertain times, but I know that this worry isn't going to help me. So maybe I can focus on something else to help me feel better. Try worry postponement or setting aside a deliberate worry time in your day where you do nothing but worry. If you can think about in university, professors set aside office hours so that students do not have access to them 24/7. Imagine if they did, that would get really, really chaotic. So can you do the same with your worries? Only allowing them a certain period of time to consume your attention. If a worry comes up outside of that time and is not a real problem worry that you can do something about, can you postpone the worry by jotting it down and come back to it at your scheduled worry time? When the time comes, spend 15 minutes worrying about all the things that came up in the day. You may find that the problem has resolved itself, or maybe it doesn't seem so bad. You might also find that you still can't resolve it. So it's better to focus your energy on something more productive and something that you can control. Reflect on your worries after. Do they feel as problematic? Can you find a solution to any practical problems? Or can you accept that there's something that you have no control over and let them go? Some behavioral strategies might look like trying to engage in a flow activity. So this is an activity where the level of challenge matches your level of skill. And sometimes you might find that you completely lose yourself in it. Maybe you lose track of time and everything around you. Think about what those flow activities might be for you. Maybe it's refinishing furniture or teaching a virtual fitness class, playing an instrument, going for a run, or creating art. Distraction techniques. So is there something that maybe you can do to distract yourself from your worries? These can be flow activities or maybe not. Do you have any hobbies or interests, such as playing an instrument, reading, working on a puzzle, cooking, or gaming? Can you practice mindfulness? Mindfulness is formal meditation, which could be sitting or meditative walking, or maybe it's doing a mindful activity. So bringing your full awareness into whatever it is that you're doing in that moment. So using all of your senses to fully absorb the task, such as making and drinking a tea, folding laundry, or doing dishes. Join me next week, and I'm going to talk more about mindfulness and how it might help you to manage worry. Try and stay connected. So carve out quality time for those people that are in your household to do things that you enjoy together, or stay connected with those outside your household with technology. Exercise. This can be a flow activity, this could be a distraction technique, but it also has powerful benefits to help with worry. Exercise reduces the level of the body's stress hormones and stimulates the production of endorphins, these chemicals in the brain that are the body's natural painkillers and mood elevators. They're responsible for that runner's high that potentially you feel after or during a workout. Self-care. Keep doing the things that you need to take care of yourself. Proper sleep hygiene, eating healthy meals, drinking enough water, limiting substance use, staying on top of your cleaning and your organizing, doing your hair, your makeup, your nails. While we may not be out and about, the way we feel about ourselves is much improved when we continue to put effort into caring for our bodies, minds, health, and environment. Again, we'll revisit this topic next week in our Mindful May mental health conversation. And finally, maintain routines. Routines add structure to your day. It helps with building meaning and purpose and allows us to continue to feel productive and more in control. Maybe this looks like sleep routines or regular meal times, regular exercise, or consistent work times. So these are a few strategies that maybe you can start to bring in to your day to help you to manage worry that is so natural with what's going on right now. And I'll just touch quickly on a few resources that you might also reach out to if you're having difficulty managing worry, stress, changes, or uncertainty. Maybe it looks like talking to your manager about getting some support, or your human resources department, or if you have an employee family and assistance program for potentially some mental health counseling. Looking at wellness programs, virtual exercise programs, meditation apps or YouTube, journaling or getting a 5-minute journal. Also, occupational therapists can really help with managing worry and helping you to stay engaged with activities that are important to you. So I've left the email for GoWin Consulting here so that you can contact us to talk about how we might help to support your or your employees or your team's well-being, mental health, and resiliency. We can also provide complex accommodation assessments if you notice that you have an employee who is struggling to stay at work, and what strategies might be helpful for them to adjust the work or adjust how they're doing the work so that they can stay at work and stay healthy. We do employee resiliency training, so group training. We have online webinars to talk about mental health. We have CBT group programs if you want to develop a group program for your employees. And we have manager mental health training, so to help equip managers to both manage and recognize their own mental health and also the mental health of their employees. Our next public session is actually next week on May 18th. So check out gowintraining.com for more information on our webinars and our workshops. And I guess we're right at 1 o'clock, but I'll stick around if there's any questions that anyone has about this material, about our programs, and how we might be able to help you. But I want to say thank you so much to everyone for joining me for this lunch half-hour session to talk about mental health. I really enjoy talking to people about mental health and supporting mental health. So thank you, and I hope that you join us next week for our topic of mindfulness and self-care.